The new patch has been out for about a week or so at this point in time. And you know what? Even though there was a lot of complaining going on, some things never change. Because in the upper left-hand corner of this weekly finals, playing in red, we have none other than hero. Hero really did not seem to have a good time, especially in his first games on the patch. He was even leaving some matches without a GG, which feels really out of character. But I guess today we'll find out how good he can currently go up against a Zerg player. Spawning right here in blue, we have none other than Solar. And at the very least, in the first games that I saw Solar play on the patch so far, he looked extremely sharp. Solar seems to be the Zerg player to beat right now on the Korean server, so we'll find out together. This particular series is the finals of the Pigosaur 89, which was played this week. As of me casting it, it was played yesterday. So I'm hoping, at the very least for hero's sake, and maybe also the StarCraft community on the whole, that Protoss will figure out a couple of nice strategies here and there. Because the fact of the matter is that Protoss players are a little bit lost. They need somebody to save them right now. I see about, I think broadly speaking, I see two different sides when it comes to Protoss players, okay? On the one hand, we have players that play their old strategies. They go for like oracles into blink stalkers into being forced to GG out of the game because Zergs absolutely destroyed them. That's the first half. The second half of Protoss players is going for really dirty all-ins that some of the time work out, but most of the time don't. That's how Zerg versus Protoss currently gets played in my mind. Now, I don't think that really has to be done like that. I'm pretty sure there are multiple ways of playing the matchup, but I just haven't really seen any that really seem to work out that well for me. So, yeah, let's see. Maybe Hero is the one to look out for. Would you look at this, by the way? Is that what I believe it is? Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to present you Hero making a wall. Now, I think actually that this Cybercore could have gone one square down. Probably would have been slightly... But you know what? This looks to me like a wall. One that you can actually finish with a single pylon. One that doesn't have a pylon inside of the wall off either. Maybe this is what it takes. Okay, so real quick, in case you are not 100% up to date on the changes that make Protoss players, reinvent the world. It's mostly this. It's mostly this particular warp gate. So, there's a couple of different problems that you run into. So in the past, when you got the warp gate research, it automatically turned all of your gateways into warp gates, which would then allow you to just start warping in units. A really nice way of getting a lot of production out, and it's what Protoss players have been dealing with ever since the early days. Actually, very early on in StarCraft 2, the gateways wouldn't automatically transform, but they added that as a quality of life improvement at some point. So Protoss players have been warping in since the beginning of the StarCraft 2 beta back in 2010. They have now fundamentally changed the way that this works. So he actually canceled it to go and buy the Stargate here. He'll be restarting it up, just like what we've seen in the old patch too. Anyways, what it now does is it does two things, okay? First off, it allows you to transform a gateway into an old warp gate, just like always. However, you have to pay 25 minerals and 25 gas for each individual warp gate, which gets really expensive really fast. Imagine doing like an 8-gate all-in on 2 bases. Suddenly you have to, well, transform 8 gateways into warp gates. That is 8 times 25 for both of the resources, so your all-in just doesn't really work. But the second thing, and this is where Protoss players are starting to, I guess, learn how to play around it now. The second thing that this upgrade does is that it increases the regular production speed out of a gateway by a flat 40%. And that's big. That second part is really big. So what we saw at Home Story Cup, I really like this especially from Skillis. Skillis would open up with, well, a quick warp gate research, but then not transform the gateways into warp gates, just get the 40% production buff. Whenever he would get aggressive, he would like spend the resources to transform all of the gateways into warp gates, but then when he went back home, he would transform, and this is the key, he would transform the warp gates back into regular gateways. Huh? You're allowed to do that? It turns out you only have to spend the resources one time. So it's just 25 minerals and 25 gas each. And then you can transform it freely in between the two states. And I wonder if that is the way you're supposed to play it. At the very least, it looked really strong. I'm not sure, though. And that's kind of the issue you run into, right? Like, not only do you have the 8-worker start. Okay, apparently Hero is just paying the tax He's just paying the 50-50 here. Yeah, he's decided to just not really bother with the quicker production here for too much longer, as we have the double oracles moving out and a pretty fast third base as well. But if you pay the tax flat out, aka what hero has done here, don't you just fall behind against world-class Zergs like Solar. Solar is going to be able to make use of that really quick larva regen. He's going to be able to get his bases saturated super easily. He's even attempting to go for a fourth base already. Now that's not going to happen. We have a lair coming up right now. And mass droning here. We don't really have full saturation on all of the bases yet, so I don't really mind this all too much for Solar, who's now going to be able to secure it a couple seconds later. So this is remarkably similar to what we have seen over the last few years, right? Triple Nexus build, Oracle start, +1 attacks, and then blink. I've got a feeling, though, at least in the games that I've seen, and maybe I'm wrong. Again, I am willing to go back on all of this, but I've got a feeling that this is just straight up worse for Protoss. The thing is, you're kind of on a... It's like a momentum-based strategy, right? You're kind of on a timer. It's an invisible timer, but you really do want to be able to continuously put on the pressure. And I've got a feeling if you go for Blink Stalkers now, Zerg is going to be at like 3.5 bases saturated minimum by the time that you get across the map. I don't disagree with Solar here. I think you just sort of let Protoss do their own thing here and try to, yeah, basically out-greed the greed. He now sees the Stalker warp in. He'll be pretty happy to note that this is all very normal. We're just going to be rallying more and more workers down towards the third base. Assimilators coming up. So is it smart to leave these warp gates, right? Like you do get a flat improvement for all of the production speed. Wouldn't it be better to, yeah, just sort of leave these gateways into their gateway form and then only transform them when you decide to go on the offense? A couple of issues you run into, of course. We've seen this as well at, for example, Home Story Cup, where Zergs suddenly show up with mutas in the main base. Protoss players are like, quick, warp, and then they realize they don't have the warp in available. It's going to be Zerglings together with Hydralisks here for the time being for Solar, who's already indeed starting to saturate his fourth base. I think getting 3 bases up is very doable as Protoss, but I'm not sure about the fourth base. He's going charge after Blink. So we do have Blink Stalkers, but it's only a handful. He's not really going to be able to put in a whole lot of work with this. Looks like one of the Oracles, by the way, ended up dying. Revelation here will indeed show exactly what's going on, but there's no proxy pylon, there's no warp gate available. All we have is more Stalkers just wandering across. Shield battery right now on the wall off, and hero is actually not all army hotkeying. He's actually very deliberately putting a Stalker on hold position. Is this even hero we're looking at? Solar cutting some corners, by the way. He did make a Roach Warren, but we don't have a Baneling Nest. This is just straight Zergling Hydra. He's getting Overlord speed going right now. Okay. So on the previous patch, this would be a more committed attack with Stalkers. Right now, instead, we're going into a quicker charge together with the Storm Research. Keep in mind that this also got nerfed. Ooh. Now this is a real big deviation, I guess. It's a Fleet Beacon, but not as fast as what hero was going for last week. Last week, he was going for like a 6.5, 7 minute mothership. In this particular instance, we have done it in a slightly more sophisticated manner, but I think we're still headed in that direction. So this is probably going to be ground toss together with a Mama ship up in the air. Alternatively, he could go into Tempest. My main concern, though, is what do you do when Zerg ultimately goes across the map? And apparently this time around, Zerg is going across the map in a private jet. We have 6 Dropper-Lords ready to go in. What does hero do if suddenly a gigantic Zerg army drops in his main base? Does he have enough units? I'm not sure. I'm not sure about paying the gateway tax, man. I've got a feeling you, in a situation like this, like what has hero really gotten out of the warp gates? Right, he warped in a bunch of times to get Stalkers out, but he would have actually been in a better spot, at the very least I believe so, if he left them in just regular warp gate form, right? Because he doesn't have a proxy pylon, he doesn't have a warp prism. So what's the point of the warp gates? It's just a lot of lost resources, no? Maybe I'm missing something, I don't know. Or maybe we're just a little bit reluctant. Storm at this point does get spotted. A couple of Zerglings will sacrifice themselves. We have a secondary attack, though, unloading inside of the main base. herO's not prepared for this particular attack at all. He decides to recall about half the army, but that, of course, creates a lot of vulnerability here at the front. There is still enough energy available for some storms. Hydras are stuck in between the gateways. What about the push over here, though? Yeah, Hydras are going to be winning the fight at the front lines. He doesn't have a secondary recall available, of course. He's going to warp in more and more zealots right over here. 18 probes have already died. Solar is sending it. Solar is not bothering with a hive. Solar doesn't even have an infestation. No, he does have an infestation pit. He's just not bothering upgrading his main structure. I think when the units from the main base go down to the low ground, he's going to be able to clean this up. The drop, by the way, went back in for a little bit more. But this is exactly what I was trying to point out, right? This is one of those games where hero is basically trying to play his old strategy, the one that he's been going for the last 5 years, and it's still kind of good, but there's negative momentum. You just don't really have nearly as much stuff as the Zerg. So I think we have to go back to the drawing board. I really don't think that a strategy like this is the most optimal way to go for a win. How many gateways do we have, by the way? So we've got 10. That's a lot of resources, right? Like, that's 500 resources down the drain just for the warp gates. And I don't think the warp gates have really done too much. As a matter of fact, you get more production out of just regular gateways. Like, you could do the same thing with, like, 6, maybe 7. And then you would be fine. No GG in game number 1. Those kind of games have me a little bit worried. Then again, though, Protoss has to reinvent themselves, right? Like, Zerg can effectively just play the same strategy that they have always played over the last 5 years and just have a slightly easier time because of the larva increase. There's obviously a couple of things as well to offset some of that early game boost, like the cost of the hatchery and the overlords being a little bit slower and the hatcheries providing less supply and all the rest of it. But at least, broadly speaking, Zerg can do the exact same strats that they have been going for many years. I don't think you can do the same thing as Protoss. Maybe. I want to believe. But I kind of don't. So let's see what hero can do here in game number 2. Now, obviously, this is the finals of this particular weekly tournament. I did see the sign-up list. There were certainly some high-ranking Zergs as well. Now, I didn't really want to like scroll through the entire bracket, because that would probably spoil me for this particular series too, and I'd rather not know, but there's a good chance that hero did take down a few Zerg players to get to this particular match. Did he do it by just playing that old strategy that we just now saw? Okay. Nexus first. Nexus first on Sanctuary 3. Let's see. It's a little bit risky. I'm also a little bit afraid, though, since Protoss has been underperforming over the last, well, week and a half, week or so, ever since the new patch. I'm also a little bit afraid that we're gonna see an overcorrection, maybe a little bit before it's really necessary. Because yes, it may turn out to be true that Zerg in this matchup is a little bit busted, and maybe Protoss does need a little bit of love as well in the other matchups, but I wouldn't be surprised as well if, like, somebody figures out some really interesting strats. For example, one of the things that, again, we saw Skillas go for, and Skillas said repeatedly that he didn't really care about the balance. He was having fun playing Protoss again, which, you know, is nice to hear. He didn't really like the previous meta with Protoss very much, even though, I guess, win rate-wise, it technically was better for Protoss so far, but he was having fun playing Protoss again. So one of the strategies that he was going for was really quick Sentry Stalker pushes. He would skip out on the, what's it called? Like on the Twilight Council. He would sometimes open up with a Stargate, but then quickly go down to a ground toss-based army. And since Ravagers now take 2 corrosive biles to pop a force field, Sentry pushes seem to be quite a bit better again. It did look a little bit unrefined, though, across the board. So maybe this Nexus first is going to allow hero a little bit more flexibility. He decides to cancel the Zealot there at 99%. Seeing very well, of course, with this scouting probe that there's really no need to have that unit out. It's a quick Stargate now inside of the main base. Stalker as well on the low ground. Super greedy build here for hero, right? So we have literally nothing. We're chrono boosting out. No units. Just probes. He spent all of his energy on the Nexi, so we don't even have a chrono boost prepared here for when the Stargate finishes, although he could start saving up for that right now. Should be able, though, to get rid of these links. I think he should be able to save the probe. Yeah. And this is a greedy start here for hero, yes. But I like it quite a bit better. Yeah. The probe scout really does justify a lot of it. Okay, now Solar has, of course, seen with the Overlord of his that this is a Nexus first. So he's following this up with some greed of his own. We're not going for any Zerglings other than the first two. And he is just making workers too. This is almost like a bit of a gentleman's agreement. Void Ray first this time around. No more Oracle shenanigans. Straight into the Void Ray instead. Fair enough. Do we go Void Ray into Oracle or do we do Void Ray into Void Ray? Now it's going to be Void Ray into Oracle. That'll be the end of Ulto. Look at that hungry Stalker here to the left. I'm afraid, though, that the beams of the Void Ray are going to be able to get the job done. Bzzzt. Get owned, Otto. Alright. Now into a third Nexus we go, together again with a Twilight Council. Okay. So we're still going to double down on the Twilight Council. Yeah, I like this start better here for hero, but again, the same problem that I saw in the previous game could once more be an issue here too. Because Solar is going to be able to start pumping out workers. There's zero pressure on the Zerg in this entire game so far. Solar has been playing a respectful game, right? Not really opting to go for a whole lot of units, I guess, but he's still making some. Oh, it's going to be charge first. Charge first instead of blink first. Roach Warren right now on the other side of the map. Another respectful move here for Solar. We have a lair inside of the main base too. Now the warp gates are going to be coming up inside of the main base. And I say warp gates, it's because hero is just paying the money. He's just paying his taxes like a normie. A lot of Protoss players out there are at the very least practicing being a tax evader, but not hero, man. He's honorable. Is this smart, though? So we have now spent 6 times 25 minerals and 6 times 25 gas. So that's 300 resources down the drain. Is it smart? If we're not being aggressive, then what's the point? I guess you can warp in units in a pinch, right? He's hiding zealots. I think with this build, though, it would also be better to only now transform the warp gates, right? Could you not have had an extra production cycle? Zealots into fleet beacon. Okay. You know what? This has real potential. A lot of roaches are coming out right now. I think there's room for improvement, right? If we look at this build, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm loco. Peak humor. Like and subscribe, everybody. Alright. Queen's desperately trying to transfuse the 4th. We have a Spire in the meantime building over at the 3rd base, but the hatchery is already gone. +1 attack coming up, too. Wait, was it for Tempest? Or are we gonna get it for Mama? I mean, we have 1 Stargate. The problem is he's seen... Oh, supply block. That's kind of hurting. Ugh. Yeah, he's trying to make Mama. He's seen the Spire on the other side of the map. Obviously, Solar could want to... Like, he probably wants to go into a bunch of Mutalisks here. Alternative choice, though, is just to make Corruptors. Good bit of damage done by hero, but was it good enough? Well, we're gonna see again whether or not this next follow-up wave can actually put in some more damage. Nice attack move right here by hero. I love how a lot of these new strategies really are just straight up from Gold League, man. So we go Void Ray into charge slots, into Mothership, into Void Ray speed inside of the Fleet Beacon. I feel like this is the Gold League Protoss player redemption arc that we've been witnessing lately. It's a beautiful thing. It's gonna be Corruptor Roach right here for Solar. It's working, though. Solar has only got 75 workers, and obviously this 4th base was delayed a bunch of times. He's now actually moving forward with the Overlord. I think he's just about ready to send it. He's got 6 queens out. Where are these Overlords going? Why are they moving to the front? Look, he's moving them into position to spread creep in the middle of the map. And that at least implies to me that he wants to go for a big attack. That's exactly what he's doing. Mama is gonna be incredible though. Another supply block, by the way, here for hero. That is the 2nd one in this particular game that I've spotted. Maybe Solar had one too. Doubt it, but maybe. There's not enough Corruptors though, with a shield battery up in the air. Zerglings do sneak around. All army hotkey here. Beautiful move. Beautiful gameplay. Time warp is big though. Yeah, Roaches tried to back up. Corrosive balls onto the mothership. You love to see it. Zerglings are tearing all of this apart. But yeah, I don't know if hero is enough. This has been messy though. Lots of mistakes. He's only lost 3 probes, which is actually kind of remarkable. Mothership is gonna need its abilities again, but it's a while away. Void Ray takes corrosive ball damage, but still, the Voids are putting in a lot of work. Dude, he's just eating vials. Stutter Step Micro and Void Rays. What is this? Is this how you're supposed to play Protoss? Is this how it's supposed to be done? We're stutter stepping Void Rays in 2026? Very sloppy engagement though for hero across the board. Eating way too many corrosive balls. Obviously all army hotkeying a little bit too hard. Mothership also ended up getting bile there, which is kind of a miss. One of the Void Rays dies. Prismatic alignment. Wrong miss micro over here on the Voids too. Ooh, recall here for some reason does not fit all of the Voids. Okay. We've got ourselves a bunch of carriers coming up right now inside of the main base. Hero already going into the +2 flyer upgrade. Nothing inside of the wall off yet again, which has me a little bit concerned. 4th Nexus, a little bit exposed, but no Zerglings on top of it. Corruptors could have maybe attempted a caustic spray. Not happening. Solar is very happy, by the way, just staying at Lair Tech. I really don't believe that this is the optimal way to play Zerg at all. I don't think Solar has really had a lot of issues in this matchup ever since the patch went live, so he's just clicking things. He's just sticking around on Lair Tech and he's just trying to send it. I think this is honestly a little bit, almost a bit too disrespectful at this point. Imagine this type of army, but then with Infestors or Vipers or quite literally any sort of late game upgrade. Solar only has 79 workers though, and he obviously didn't get that 4th base up and running until very late because of the Zealot attack from the earlier stages of this match. Trying to almost like soft contain the Protoss right now on 3 bases. I guess that's the new plan, but keep in mind as we see the Roaches pinned up against the wall. Keep in mind that bases now lasted a little bit longer. So the main base on the previous patch would have been mined out already. I mean, it's close to mining out, but there's still resources coming in, right? Same for the natural here. This was a Nexus first. The base is still running nearly 12 minutes into the game. It's probably going to be running until like minute 15. So hero is actually able to go mass Void Ray. Corruptors are now ready though to maybe snipe a couple of these Stargates or potentially Void Rays as soon as they pop out of the production structure. As we are caustic spraying all of the things now. Void Rays have to come back in around. Stalkers on the ground though. Mama is trailing behind. She's a little bit slow. I think we're like, is this like hold position micro or stop command micro? What are we doing with the Voids? He's trying to stutter step. No, you can't engage. I actually don't think you want to be activating all the prismatic alignments. It'd be better if you only activated like half of them so you could actually keep this Protoss army out on the map way longer. Oh, he decides to just send it. Wait a second. Is this a smart move from Solar? Solar wants to move in, but he's disrespecting the Void Rays. GG. There's no way to kill that Protoss army if you throw away the Corruptors. Okay, and that will take us to the Old Sun Temple. A pretty strange game. And I feel like that's every Protoss win that I've seen over the last week and a half or so. All of the Protoss wins, they exist, but they're all a little weird. Maybe that was the new standard? I don't know. So we went Nexus first, into Void Ray Oracle, into charge slots on like 6 gates, into Mass Void Ray Mothership into carriers. I don't know. The thing is, though, that wasn't really a reaction to what the Zerg was doing. hero decided that all by himself. He decided to just go for it, so... yeah, maybe that's what you want to be playing. Also, though, Solar played a... Like, he started off with a pretty respectful strategy, but then later on, he just really didn't seem to care very much about the Protoss army at all. He didn't have any upgrades, I don't think. He never started up a hive. So... yeah, as a one-off match, that was good for hero, but I'm not really sure if that would be a strategy that works in the long run. But I guess only time will tell. Now, we are on the Old Sun Temple. This does have 4 spawn locations. This is actually bottom left versus bottom right, which in this spawn setup really does favor the Protoss. The main problem you run into here as the Zerg is that you can take your... well, you take your natural over here, your third base over here, and then where do you take your fourth? You would like to take it over here, but with good map control, it's really difficult for Zerg to either mine out the mineral fields or to destroy the rocks. These rocks have a lot of health in them, meaning that you're kind of forced into this setup over here instead. But then if Protoss has their base set up over here, suddenly you're neighbors. So, this is one of the problems you run into, I guess, with 4-player maps. Yeah, it's a problem, it's a feature. It forces players to, at the very least, strategize the game differently. You do run into, usually, some spawn imbalances, and this map... I'm not sure if the rocks need to be this beefy, man. I think the map would probably be better. Maybe even without the mineral wall, I don't know, but... it's a little bit shaky. It seems that the opposite spawn is way better for Zerg. Like, you go for... You basically go from a spawn imbalance in favor here of the Protoss to the other extreme end, but the map has been picked quite a bit, so... It's gonna be a quick Nexus again on the low ground, although not as quick as the last time around. So this is not a Nexus first. We're still gonna go straight into the warp gates. I guess in hero's mind, the new patch has warp gates costing 175 minerals and 25 gas. Like, he is just straight up paying the tax. So if the South Korean government ever wants to increase income taxes, just know, hero will not complain. Well, maybe he will complain a little bit. Maybe he will leave without a GG, but that's really about it. He's just gonna suck it up and pay the price. I guess what else can you do, right? What are your alternatives when the government decree? I don't know what you can do. Anyways, it seems to me like he's just happy to pay the extra 25 minerals and gas for every single warp gate. It's a level of refinement, though, that we are missing. You know what I would like? I would like robo units to not be hot garbage in this matchup. Really, the only unit that is good for Protoss in Protoss vs. Zerg is the Immortal. Disruptors are kind of ass. Colossi are kind of ass. I don't really like either of them. Be nice if the other units, though, like if they were also viable in this matchup, because I'm not really sure that there's any reason to really go for any sort of robo play other than Immortals. Anyways, Void Ray first yet again. Is it worth going for an Oracle? Was that Oracle on the back of it really worth it? Maybe it's good for scouting? I wonder if you could go second Void Ray instead of an Oracle instead, if you want to go for a similar strategy as what we saw. Now, it's going to be an Oracle yet again queued up. I'm assuming we're going to use this third, or this Oracle, or sorry, the Void Ray, to then also go into a third base. We already have the probe waiting. Got a mineral walk it did. There we go. Yeah, so the Void Ray is really just here to clean up whatever the Zerg player puts down. Okay. I've been having the camera a lot on hero. Let's see what Solar has been cooking up precisely. It's just that I think the early game for Protoss is a lot more interesting than the early game for Zerg right now. Spore Crawler inside of the natural. Spore Crawler inside of the main base. No Spore over at the third, but we've got 3 Queens waiting. Second Stargate, though, for hero. So we are once more going for a hero's threat. Kind of funny, by the way. Hero absolutely dominating the most recent patch, right? Like, he's the most winningest, the most earningest. Those are words. player of 2026. In my mind, though, if you ask people, right, like what sort of player is hero? Hero is a very chaotic player, especially with a new patch. You would imagine he would really thrive, but so far that doesn't seem to be the case. No Spore Crawler at the third base. A little bit of misfiring, though, on the Oracle. Could have at the very least had one additional kill. Queen sleeping on the job. I still think we need to get a Spore Crawler going here in a moment. But it looks like we're back to Void Race. We do need to start up a second Void Ray 2, though. Doesn't have the money, I guess. Second Stargate too early. Second Stargate too early because we transformed 2 gateways. Didn't need to do it, right? Like, what's the point in transforming those warp gates? I don't get it. We're just sending... Like, now it's nice if you need to warp in a couple units in a pinch. But I really don't think we have to instantly transform the warp gates and just call it a day. There's no way this is optimal. Making those adepts out of regular gateways and then getting the secondary Void Ray production going faster is certainly better. You also don't have to transform all of the gateways here into warp gates if you want to do it defensively. Just like 2, maybe 3 would do. So there's certainly room for improvement. Nice bit of damage done, though, by these adepts. Clearly not something that Solar was expecting. There's a lot of damage. In the meantime, the Void Ray numbers are growing. Gonna be up to 5 here in a moment. Man, so much damage. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, so that's 15 drones for 7 adepts. 2 more because of the Oracle. Oracle, in the meantime, is chilling. Looks like we're thinking about making a 4th. Interestingly enough, Solar did expand in the direction of the Protoss, but it's now Hero who's expanding away from the Zerg. But why? I don't know. Straight up worse. Should be going for that one for sure. We should also be hold positioning the unit. Look, I'm all for balance winding, okay? You can sign me up for balance winding any day of the week. But sometimes I see people just pointing to certain tournament results and claiming that that is the reason why X, Y, or Z is imbalanced. But then when you actually look at the games, man... I'm sure there's some miscontrol as well on Solar's ends of things, but this is by no means the perfect way to play Protoss. Alright, we've got the Fleet Beacon coming up. Problem is, yeah, there's already a lot of anti-air available for Solar. Void Rays are gonna try and go in around the side. He's hoping that the Hydras are sleeping on the job and moving in the direction of the main base. Hero, please leave. Hero, don't stay! Okay. Alright, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. No reason to scream, no reason to panic. Don't tell me he's actually gonna kill the hedge. Oh my god, he's gonna kill the hedge. The Hydras are going on the offense. Recall right now on the Voids to bring them back home. What about this attack though here for Solar? I don't know, man. I really love this attack for Solar, but it's just not the right units for Hero. Are Void Rays really gonna cut it against Mass Hydra? Flux Veins and Muscular Augments. Those are their movement speeds. Oh, nice. All Army Hotkey Oracle straight through the middle of the Hydra ball. You hate to see it, really. There's a Stasis Ward over here. Circling, though, triggers it immediately. Nicely done by Solar. He's actually going to defend this. There's Mama. Solar. Solar is terrified of Mama, man. He saw her and he instantly tapped out. We've all been there. We've all been there. No shame, Solar. Sometimes when your friend's mom suddenly comes home, better to just run. Game number 3. No, game number 4. At Eternity's Edge. Big map. A lot of strategic variety. Got a feeling that maybe we should, yeah, maybe some Void Rays? That would be nice. Look, my main concern is that Blizzard is gonna have this, like, knee-jerk reaction, right? Where they're like, oh no, Protoss is not performing! Ah! It's been an entire week! Right? And that we're gonna basically put the training wheels back on. Which I don't really like. I would also be a little bit afraid of them just straight up reverting a bunch of the changes. Maybe the warp gate change is a little bit weird. Maybe it takes some time to get used to, but I think ultimately it's really cool because it adds an extra layer of depth, right? Like an extra strategic layer to the way that you have to play your early game. It makes Protoss a lot more flexible. I think ultimately it's a good thing for the game. Anyways, opinions are pretty divided on that particular subject, but I've seen it happen before, especially in competitive games. When a week goes by after a big new patch, things don't seem to be performing that well, and we get an overcorrection immediately. Don't love it. I think it's fine. Maybe there does need to be a little bit of love, but I think if that turns out to be the case, it's probably very small value adjustments in like maybe 6-7 weeks from now. I was going to say 3 to 4, but I figured 6-7 sounded fun. Okay, anyways, next is right now on the low ground after a gateway. It never occurred to me how often you say those numbers in sequence until Gen Alpha thought it was funny. It is what it is. Next is into Cybercore here. Probe once more blocking the low ground expo. I will say, though, that Solar has been playing a very messy style as well. I really don't think we have to stick around on just lair all-ins every game. As a matter of fact, I know that you don't need to do it. These players have been putting in the work, though, over the last week and a half. They're playing a very different game than what we saw them play before. A little bit more messy. A bit rough around the edges, I suppose. And usually those couple of points of refinement do make a difference. Stargate in the main base again. Warp gates will probably be started back up. Yeah, I don't know if I'm missing something, but I don't see why hero needs to immediately transform all of his warp gates, right? Like, what's the point? There's really no need. Especially in the previous game. The Adepts did so much damage, but I think we could have probably had 2 more Adepts out. Or an extra Void Ray a little bit quicker. Obviously, in the later stages of the game, it's a no-brainer, because mobility is king. But then resources are also plentiful, right? Like, you don't really run out. That still worked, though. Seems like the key so far, at least judging off of this series alone, is Void Race and Mama. Yo, Mama is so scary. She makes a world-class Zork player tap out immediately. Okay, I gotta work on that one. Yeah, no, I gotta work on that one. But it's certainly true. If you're stuck at like lair tech, you can kind of go for a Spire, I guess, reactively, but in order to go for a proper Corruptor switch, you kind of need to have, like, at least Hive-Tech economy, if that makes any sense. If you're stuck on, like, 3 bases, you're trying to go for a Corruptor switch at that point, you end up with no army on the ground anymore, just to try and counter the mothership. It's a little bit of a mess. So, by the way, this is Oracle into Oracle. We have a Spore Crawler cancelled into an Evo Chamber instead. That's just to try and keep the drone alive, because Evo Chambers build quicker. They gain HP a little bit faster. Clever way for Solar to keep that worker alive. Not actually something we see all too often. So Oracle into what? I'm assuming Void Race. This is going to be a more conventional approach so far, though, it seems. If that is indeed the case, we should be seeing a Twilight Council and a Forge. Right over here, I think. This is the map, by the way, with the Nova fan club. Just like my comment section and all my YouTube viewers and Twitch. Everybody loves Nova. This is you guys. Look, that's you. Isn't that beautiful? You look good, by the way. I love what you did with the drums. Oh, we're going second Stargate and Void Race. Yeah, second Stargate and Void Race. Twilight Council is banned, okay? We're not doing Twilight Councils anymore unless for charge. pretending to go for a... he's pretending to go for a similar attack as in the previous game. Overlord speed coming up. Solar is ready to once more go for an attack, I think. Hive tech? Gross. Hate it. Queens. Zerglings. Roaches. Maybe Corruptors if we absolutely need it. Maybe some Hydralisks. But not really. Not really what we want to be going for. Nematized Carapace. And a Dropalord it is. This is going to be for the Queens. Get down there, Brenda. Lily. Beth. Where's Susan? Is anybody... Ah, there we are. You guys also probably need to be joining in the jet in just a sec. We do have a Watchtower vision, though, for hero, which is sweet. He's gonna scout. Will he see the Dropalord? He's gonna see Roaches and Zerglings. No, he's not gonna see the Dropalord. Where is the Dropalord? Oh, we're just gonna go straight through the center? Oh, okay, one of the plays of all time. What? Don't have StarCraft players play a stealth game, okay? This is a theme I've noticed with StarCraft players over the years. All StarCraft players absolutely suck at stealth games. Not a very popular genre, I guess, anymore, but... Trying to be sneaky? Nah. Okay, here we go. This is a very scary attack, though. This is exactly where Void Rays are not strong. Void Rays are good when you have big numbers, but we're not quite there yet. Corrosive Biles are really nice. Shield batteries are good too, but I don't really know if they're going to be able to, yeah, really tank enough damage. Keep in mind, this isn't even all the Queens. Some of the Queens stayed at home to take care of the Brood, inject the bases and all the rest of it, but I wonder if we could have maybe made a second Dropalord to bring in even more anti-air, because with 6 Queens, I think this would be an extremely difficult thing to hold. Still though, while the Void Rays are busy trying to put in some work, the Zerg army is tearing everything apart. Nothing protecting the natural wall, because why would you have a unit in hold position? Nexus over here gets biled to death. Probes are dying over in the main. And I guess the Zerg is just gonna go back home? At least we're considering going back home. There's still some juicy probes to be nibbling on. Pylon here is gonna get shut down. Maybe. He saw a probe. Okay, not quite. Not quite. Absolute disaster, though, for hero. It's still playable. What he mostly has is Void Rays. He's gonna have 11 Void Rays here in just a moment. 11 Void Rays with +1. I mean, there are worse armies. Hydras are very high DPS now. No attempted micro on individual Voids at all. Queens and Void Rays. Yeah, I think it's just better for the Queens. Hydras joining in again. Messy here from hero. I don't like this. Nah. GG. And that means it all comes down to this. Final game in this best of 5 finals is BlackRock. Honestly, a pretty scrappy series, right? From both players. It really does kind of feel like everybody's dropped at least 500 MMR since the new patch. Except Serral. Except Serral and maybe Klim. But everybody else, remarkably mortal. Turns out the players that are good at the game are still really good at the game. Yeah, I think for Protoss it's fair. For Protoss it is going to take some time. I do really believe it's just going to take a couple more weeks before a certain strategy rises to the top. I have been a little bit surprised though by how stubborn a lot of the players do appear to be as well. Some pro gamers are really liking the changes and they're just kind of experimenting, right? And trying to do some new things and enjoying that now new strategies are viable, but I'm a little bit surprised with how inflexible some of the players are as well. We're like, no! I want to play the exact same strategy I've played for the last 5 years! Change! Ugh, disgusting! I hate it! Well, it is what it is. We gotta deal with it. And at the very least, I think a lot of the fans have been enjoying it a lot. At least judging by, for example, the view count over the last few weeks. it has been higher than I think it has been in like 6 years. So that's, you know, shout out to the people that have recently come back to the game, or maybe you recently started watching. There have been a lot of people that have been jumping back to a little bit of StarCraft, which is nice to see. There's always been a bit of a disconnect though, right? Like a lot of the players may not necessarily want the same thing as a lot of the fans. And I think that's fair. Obviously, especially when your livelihood is being really good at a video game and then, you know, that video game changing drastically, right? It makes sense. But I do think sometimes change can be for the better. And I think in this case, it will actually end up being better in the long run. The long run being a few months. And we've already seen, right, that Blizzard has been willing to actually be on the... like, on the nose with all of the updates. Like, they've been actually putting out hotfixes and changing values on a relatively short notice, which is proving to be very important. So as long as that's the case, I don't really think it's a big deal. Stargate opener yet again. So some things, I guess, never change. It's been a Stargate opener now in every single game. I think soon I'll get back to starting casts at like minutes, maybe 2:45. Over the last few years, I've been, especially in like game 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, I've been usually skipping to the point in all the Protoss matchups to the point where the Cyber Core finishes up. Usually not on game number 1, but there's quite a bit of filler now, of course, because of the 8-worker start. It's kind of nice though, like while you're playing, the extra minute or so of downtime early on, it is kind of chill. I don't absolutely hate it. I do still think it's absolutely meaningless and it was unnecessary, but whatever. It is what it is. It's gonna be oracles yet again. Okay. So, one final game. Or unless it's a draw, we might... I'd be very surprised if it's a draw. PvZ draws? I don't know about that. Adepts get in. Ah, nice micro here, though, by the Zerg. Pitting one of those Adepts against the wall. We are gonna get 2 workers in the end, which is honestly quite decent. 2 workers is good. The main problem is that now the Oracle needs to stay home, I think. Yeah, I think. Because you don't have any Adepts protecting the 3rd. If you don't, the Zorklings are gonna nibble it. Oh, we're not paying the warp gate tax. Oh, because we don't have warp gates yet. I got a little excited. Yeah, I guess the main thing, right, when you transform the warp gates from a gateway, is that you instantly get a warp in available. So that's, I guess, the main bottleneck. Like, if you go for the warp gate production, or the regular gateway production, rather, after warp gate has been researched, the 40% extra production speed doesn't technically kick in until, like, maybe a unit or 2, right? Because, obviously, right now, we already get the 2 extra zealots. So maybe that little burst production early on is worth it sometimes. Anyways, oracles go in. 2 drones is not ideal. 3 drones good. 4 drones would be sick. Yeah, nicely done. 6 workers now in total. But how do you now transition, right? This is a good beginning for Protoss. We've got the 3rd base up pretty safely. We've done a bunch of damage, kept the important units alive, but now what do we do? Considering he's warping in zealots, I guess it's gonna be a fleet beacon. Okay, it's not what I was gonna guess. If I was in Solar shoes, I would be... He's probably playing barefoot, actually. If I was in Solar slippers, I would make the assumption when seeing zealots that this was gonna be another one of those charge slots attacks that we saw earlier in one of the games. I guess we're saving gas. That's why we're making zealots. So I guess we could have also not paid the warp gate tax and just made... Anyways. I'll shut up about it at some point, but apparently not right now. It's a very quick fleet beacon. So is this a mothership rush? Or are we gonna go Tempests or Void Race? What's the fleet beacon for? It's for nothing. I love it. Big fan. Yeah. Okay, there we go. It's a mothership rush. 630 mothership. We've shaved a half minute off since last week. Not bad. Still, though, suboptimal, right? Like, we could tell that there's room for improvement there. Solar is going to go for a cheeky little Overlord drop. Quite like it. This is a slow Overlord, of course. Stalker on the perimeter. Oracle on the perimeter, too. Should be an easy kill. But he's going to see the special animation here on the Nexus, which implies that, indeed, a Mama ship is being made. At least assuming he unloads. He's not moving up. Okay, he's moving up. Yep. You will see the big light. And when the big light is on, not only is Dad complaining, it also means that Mama's on her way. Maybe she's got solar slippers, bro. You gotta be... She may throw it through the room. Careful. Now we go Twilight Council and gateways. Alright, a little bit of space in between the gateways. So, there's Mama. Last time Solar GD'd out immediately. We're going Mass Oracle. Mass Oracle against Corruptors. Corruptors absolutely destroy this. Mostly because Oracles do not have an air-to-air ability. They're all air-to-ground. How do we keep Mama alive? What in the world is the plan against 10 Corruptors? Queens, in the meantime, are being shot at. I think originally Solar may have wanted to go mute us again, but yeah, we're not planning on it here. He's trying to see if he can corner those Oracles, but Oracles are pretty quick. Yeah, and they're buying time, I guess, to now get the Void Ray numbers out. He's also got a lot more gateways that just turn into warp gates. So I guess a Stalker warp in might be kind of nice. He's getting charge going. Already, though, a 5th hatchery here is done on the right side of the map. Taking a 5th base on Blackrock has been really difficult. So the first 4 bases are super easy. 5th base, 6th base, and all the rest of it, very hard. Back to Mass Void Ray we go. I'm not missing something, right? Like, what is the point in having all of those warp gates? I don't get it. Why not just leave them in gateway form? We could make extra Void Rays. Like, we've now paid the price for 7 different gateways. That is at least a Void Ray. Maybe a Void Ray and a half worth. I guess we're having a lot of resources in the bank too, right? So maybe it's just whatever. Like, maybe we haven't really reached that level of refinement yet on the new patch. But it just feels a bit wasteful. It's like, why buy more groceries than you're planning on eating this week? Oh, here we go, though. This is so sketchy. Time Warp gets thrown down. Oracles swoop straight into the Corruptors. But this is still a very scary army, though, for Protoss. The Void Ray numbers are big. Big-ish. Mama's taking a lot of damage, and she will die. Zealots going in around the flank. Soon, though, it's only going to be Corruptors remaining. Lots of roaches are being made. What a strange game. Everybody is confused about the new patch, man. It's so sick. Yeah, he actually overproduced Corruptors this time around. But even though that's the case, hero is stubbornly doubling down on Void Rays here. We're still just doing the exact same unit. Okay. Ultimately, though, this is allowing Hero onto 4 bases. Solar is about 50 supply up. He's got 88 drones, so his economy is pretty sick. But again, he's not really going Hive. At the very least, we're getting upgrades going this particular game. He hasn't done that in every single match today. There's not enough Corruptors. The Void Ray numbers are growing fast. Soon, though, Prismatic Alignment is running out. Yeah, there's actually enough Void Rays. The speed on the Void Rays is also really nice to chase a lot of this down. Look at the weird Void Ray stutter step micro. You can tell a lot of missed shots as well, right? he's actually stutter stepping a little bit too quick, is because Protoss players haven't really done that before. Oh, he's just sending it now. Wait a second. We have a group of zealots also trying to make their way down south. Void Rays are being rallied straight across the map. Now there's a desync on all of the Void Rays, but I think it's actually better because the prismatic alignment is going to force a lot of those Corruptors to stay back. Now he's going to be able to activate it again, though, I think, on the main bulk. There we go. herO's doing it. 5th base of the Zerg player just died. We have 4 base versus 4 base and a much bigger army here for Protoss. Mama is being made yet again, but there's not enough units. I don't know how you're supposed to play this matchup. I'm not sure. But you know what? If you would have asked me a week ago, is herO, who's rage quitting every game, going to be able to win a tournament next week? I probably would have said no. I still think it's going to take a couple more weeks before we will really see what this patch is all about. But for now, strategies are up in the air. Nobody really knows what needs to be done. But at least this time around, it's herO who obtains the victory 3-2 over Solar.